Good morning, everybody. It's finally Friday. Weekend's coming. It looks like it might be a pretty one, too. Before we get started, let's have a word of prayer. Father in heaven, we thank you for all that you do for us. We thank you for just the safety of our homes. We thank you for the opportunity to be able to go outside and have a beautiful day to enjoy. We thank you for our families. We thank you for our health. We thank you for just time to enjoy our families. Father, I pray that you help us now as we go through this day. Help us to honor you in the things that we say and do. Help us to look for ways to serve others. Help us to realize that we represent you, we represent Christ to people that are watching us. Father, I pray that above all, you would help us to represent you well so that when somebody looks at us and they realize that we're Christians, that they would be drawn to you, not away from you. We thank you for the weekend that we have coming up, just some time to maybe stop our studies and do some other things that we enjoy. We thank you for all that you give us, but most of all, we thank you for Jesus, for it's in his name we pray. Amen. All right, today I would like you to take out your spelling book, page 67 down at the bottom. We're going to do exercise B. These are analogies. And remember, with an analogy, it's very simple. All you have to do is look at the given words, figure out the relationship between the pair of words, and then find another set of words that has the same relationship. So let's take a look at number one. Number one is illustrate and illustrated. Okay, so we know we've got a present and a past tense. So if we look down at some of these, we're looking for a present and a past tense. And so I think it's pretty obvious when you look at it. We've got renown and renowned, and we've got foreshadow and foreshadowed. So those are the two that we really need to look at. So let's look at illustrate and illustrated. Those are what part of speech? They're both verbs. They're both verbs. Okay. And so we're looking for two that would be verbs. Which one of those would be verbs? Foreshadow and foreshadowed. Yes. So we're looking for two that would be verbs. And they even kind of match. They're almost synonyms. If you illustrate, you can foreshadow something. If it's illustrated, it could also be foreshadowed. So those are kind of like synonyms as well. All right, let's look at number two. Notorious and felon. Notorious and felon. Well, what's the relationship between those? Let's see. A felon could be notorious, right? It could be a well-known felon. So a felon could be notorious. So that notorious is describing felon. So we've got an adjective describing a noun, and it's also showing a characteristic. So we're looking for an adjective and a noun, and then the adjective needs to be a characteristic of that noun. So let's see, we've got practical and utilitarian, mediocre and genius, lobby and vestibule, or trusted and mentor. Well, a genius is a noun, but mediocre does not describe a genius. A genius is anything but mediocre. So where's our other noun? Vestibule, but lobby is a noun as well. So that's not going to work. What about D? Trusted and mentor. If you have a mentor, they're trusted, aren't they? They're teaching you something. You trust them. So that's your answer. Trusted and mentor. Trusted is a characteristic that a mentor has. All right, let's look at the last one. Unprecedented and original. Oh, that one's easy as far as what they mean. We know that original and unprecedented mean the same thing. So they're synonyms. All right, so we're looking at synonyms that are, what part of speech would they be? Original and unprecedented would describe something, wouldn't it? So that would be an adjective, okay? You're going to describe something. So we're looking for two adjectives that are synonyms, all right? So let's look. Plight and predicament, invincible, indomitable, valid and legal, imperceptible and conspicuous. Oh, well, which two mean the same thing that are adjectives? Invincible and indomitable. Yeah, invincible and indomitable. Like plight and predicament, they kind of mean the same thing, but they're not adjectives, are they? So our answer is B. B would be the correct answer there, all right? Now I would like for you to take out your grammar book, and let's take a look today at page 260. Page 260. Yesterday we talked about correcting choppy writing. So today we're going to look at correcting monotonous writing. So what is monotonous? Boring, okay, not changing. All right, so let's look at what it says here. Correcting a monotonous style. Read it along with me. Syntax is the orderly arrangement or sequence of words, phrases, and clauses to create a balanced sentence. The normal syntax for a declarative English sentence is subject, verb, complement. Okay, so look, David defeated Goliath. David is your subject, defeated is your verb, Goliath is your complement. That's your direct object there. All right, Noah built the ark. Noah is your subject, built is your verb, ark is your direct object. So subject, verb, complement. This order works well in our language, but too many sentences written with the same syntax becomes very boring for the reader, and the style of writing becomes monotonous. One way to improve this writing flaw is to vary the beginning of the sentence. Okay, highlight that. Vary the beginning of the sentence. All sentences cannot be improved this way, but if you vary the beginning of some of your sentences, you can greatly improve your writing style. So let's look at how we vary the beginnings. Begin the sentence with an adverb, okay? Remember what an adverb answers those questions what? Who, no. Which ones? How, why, when, to what extent, who, okay? All right, so let's look. Begin the sentence with an adverb. Quickly, David defeated Goliath. Well, it wasn't a long drawn out battle, was it? The rock flew, hit Goliath, Goliath fell. It was quickly. So we can start that with an adverb. All right, number two, begin the sentence with an adjective. Okay, so we're describing something. Tall and athletic, Noah was the starting center on the varsity basketball team. Tall and athletic are adjectives, and they're describing Noah. All right, number three, begin the sentence with a participle. A participle. Laughing, Mallory lifted the spirits of everyone in the room. Okay, remember, participle is used as what part of speech? An adjective. So laughing is describing Mallory. Okay. Number four, begin the sentence with a prepositional phrase. Oh, on the battlefield, David called out to Goliath. So it's telling where? On the battlefield, David called out to Goliath. Number five, begin the sentence with a participial phrase. Singing happily to herself, Diana prepared dinner for her family. Now remember, participles are adjectives. So this is describing, singing happily to herself is describing Diana. It's not a verb, it's describing Diana. So it's a participial phrase used as an adjective. All right, begin the sentence with an infinitive phrase. To succeed in his classes, Marty made a study plan and stuck to it. To succeed in his classes. Why did he make it? To succeed in his classes. And we know that an infinitive can describe a verb, an adjective, or an adverb. Okay, it can be used as a verb, an adjective, or can describe a verb, an adjective, or an adverb. All right, and then look at number seven. Begin the sentence with an adverb clause. Because guests were coming to dinner, Amanda washed and ironed the tablecloth. So this tells why she washed and ironed. So this is an adverb phrase. All right, we're going to do exercises A and B on this page and the next one. All right, let's look. Rewrite each sentence moving an adverb, an adjective, or a participle to the beginning. All right, so let's look at this sentence. The elderly gentleman fondly recalled the happy times of his youth. Okay, do you see an adverb, an adjective, or a participle? How about fondly? So we could say, fondly, the elderly gentleman recalled the happy times of his youth. Okay, and you might have done this a little bit differently. That's not the only way it can be done. All right, number 2. The old car, chugging and sputtering, inched up the hill. Okay, so this one's kind of easy. Chugging and sputtering, the old car inched up the hill. Okay, number 3. His voice, deep and mellow, echoed in the empty hall. So what was describing his voice? Deep and mellow. So we could put that at the beginning of the sentence. Deep and mellow, his voice echoed in the empty hall. Okay. All right, look at the next page and look at exercise B. Let's look and see what these directions say. Rewrite each sentence moving a prepositional phrase, a participial phrase, or an infinitive phrase to the beginning. So this time we're looking for a phrase, okay? So let's look. Mrs. Yukashi, reared in Japan, still speaks with a foreign accent. So where do you see one of those phrases? Right, reared in Japan. So we could put that at the beginning. Reared in Japan, Mrs. Yukashi still speaks with a foreign accent. All right, number 2, nothing is impossible with God. Well, there's only one phrase there, which would be what? With God. So if we put that at the beginning of this sentence, it would say, with God, nothing is impossible. Good. All right, and then the last one, number 3. Many people left their European homes and came to America to worship God freely. Let's see. Do you see? Oh, I see. To worship God freely. So let's put that at the beginning of the sentence. To worship God freely, many people left their European homes and came to America. Okay? To worship God freely, many people left their homes and came to America. That would make sense. All right? All right. So let's now put that up and take out your Of Places book. I hope you enjoyed reading the story, Yes, Your Honesty. That poor fella thought he was speaking correctly, but instead of saying yes, your honor, he called him yes, your honesty. And I thought that was a great story. Now, I would like for you to take out a piece of paper. I'm going to ask you some questions to see how well you read this story. So if you'll take out a piece of paper and title the top of it, Yes, Your Honesty. And then numbered from 1 to 5. Make sure you put your name on your paper too. I'm going to give you a minute to get out your paper. If you need to put this video on pause, go ahead and pause it and then get out a sheet of paper. All right, I hope you all have that by now. So I'm going to read a couple of questions and you write the answers down. What day of the week did Georgie always say, or say was always good? What day of the week did he say was always good? Number 2. What did the group begin taking from the park? What did the group begin taking from the park? What were they taking when they were in the park? Number 3. How long had Georgie been in America when he met the policeman? How long had Georgie been in America when he met the policeman? And number 4 is true or false. True or false? Georgie decided to pay the fine instead of going to court. Georgie decided to pay the fine instead of going to court. And number 5, what did the judge do to Georgie after the trial? What did the judge do to Georgie after the trial? Okay, I'm going to read them again so you can check your answers, see how well you read the story. Number 1, what day of the week did Georgie say was always good? Number 2, what did the group begin taking from the park? Number 3, how long had Georgie been in America when he met the policeman? Number 4, true or false? Georgie decided to pay the fine instead of going to the court. And number 5, what did the judge do to Georgie after the trial? Okay, we're going to go over the answers. You check and see how you did. Number 1, what day of the week did Georgie say was always good? Sunday. Number 2, what did the group begin taking from the park? Flowers. You can even see those in his arms in the picture. Number 3, how long had Georgie been in America when he met the policeman? 6 months. 6 months. Number 4, true or false? Georgie decided to pay the fine instead of going to court. That was false. He did go to court. And number 5, what did the judge do to Georgie after the trial? The judge shook his hand. He shook his hand. Okay, so grade yourself, see how you did, put your grade at the top of the paper. We're going to count those 10 points apiece. You get 50 points just for doing it. So if you missed any, multiply it by 10 and subtract it from 100. So if you missed 1, it's going to be a 90, 2 is an 80, 3 is a 70, and so on. And I hope we don't have any and so ons. All right, I want you to turn now and look at page 384. On page 384, there is a poem, The New Colossus, The New Colossus. And so I want you to read the poem along with me. And this is about, well, let me just introduce it for you. Since 1886, the Statue of Liberty, which was originally called Liberty Enlightening the World, has greeted millions of immigrants to the shores of the United States. The words of Emma Lazarus' sonnet, The New Colossus, which is engraved on a tablet within the statue's pedestal, exemplifies the American spirit of welcome that the nation has given to these huddled masses yearning to be free. All right, so let's take a look at this poem, The New Colossus. And I want you, as we're reading it together, think about, what do you think the theme of this story or this poem is? All right, let's look at the top in the kind of tan and see what it says. This poem, which is engraved in the pedestal of the Statue of Liberty, was written in 1883 to raise funds for the construction of the statue's base. The author, Emma Lazarus, was an American writer who wanted to help Eastern European immigrants. Okay, so the United States was given this statue, but we had to come up with the base or the pedestal, and this part of this poem is engraved on the pedestal. All right, so let's look and see what it says. Not like the brazen giant of Greek fame, with conquering limbs astride from land to land. Here at our sea-washed sunset gate shall stand a mighty woman with a torch, whose flame is imprisoned lightning, and her name, Mother of Exiles, From her beacon hand glows worldwide welcome. Her mild eyes command the air-bridged harbor that the Twin Cities frame. Keep, ancient lands, your storied pomp, cries she with silent lips. Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free, the wretched refuse of your teeming shore. Send these homeless tempest-tossed to me. I lift my lamp beside the golden door. All right, so this is what is engraved on the Statue of Liberty. And what do you think this poem stands for? What do you think the theme is of this poem? If this is the first thing that immigrants see when they come into New York Harbor, what do you think the theme is? I hope you said freedom, because that's what it's all about. That's what this is all about. Okay, so let's take a look at why it says the new Colossus. Well, look down at the bottom and see what the Colossus is. Okay, it says it's a 105-foot high statue that was one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world. The Colossus, which overshadowed the harbor of Rhodes, inspired Augusta. I can't see the name of this book. I can't see the name of it. Augusta Berhaldi, who designed the Statue of Liberty. So the Colossus of Rhodes, if you've ever read about it, it was a huge statue, and it was on the outside of the harbor. And so it was kind of a welcoming thing to people who were coming into that area. And so that's kind of what the Statue of Liberty is. It's something to welcome those who are coming into the area. Now, the difference between the Statue of Liberty and the Colossus was that the Colossus was a bronze statue of a man. And it was very, very large. It was dedicated to the Greek sun god Helios, and it stood for 56 years before an earthquake struck, and it was destroyed. And so there's kind of a correlation between the two. There are differences, but there's correlations. They both were welcoming those who came into the harbor. And so that's why they're calling the Statue of Liberty the new Colossus, because she's welcoming those immigrants who come into our country. So unlike the Colossus, which represented the power of Rhodes, the Statue of Liberty represents freedom and hope for the forgotten people that were coming to America. People were coming to America from other countries, as we studied in history, for lots of different reasons. Many of them were coming from countries where people were starving because they'd had blights in their country. Some of them wanted to come because they knew that they had a chance to have a better life in the United States, that they would not be poor servants forever. And so people had lots of different reasons, some of it monetary, some of it family, some of it so that they could worship more freely. But the Statue of Liberty welcomed all who came in as immigrants, as she still does even today. So I want you to look at these questions, think it through. What message does the Statue of Liberty's name, Mother of Exiles, portray? And what does the Statue of Liberty symbolize, and what promise does it offer? So look back up into the poem and answer those questions on Think It Through on page 384, and make sure that you write Think It Through and put your page number on there as well. Let's see, we've done page 67, exercise B. We've done page 260 and 261, A and B. And we've read the poem, The New Colossus, on page 384. So all you need to do is those 2 questions on Think It Through, and then we will be finished with today. Now, as we end this lesson, I do want to talk just a minute about the story the boy in striped pajamas. If you look in your book, there are some questions for discussion. Obviously, I can't hear what you are thinking, but I want you to look at one of them in particular, number 7. I want you to look at number 7 on page 3 of the questions for discussion. It's in the very back of the book. Question 7. A pun is most often seen as humorous, but in this novel, the narrator uses dark, solemn puns like out with and fury to convey certain meanings. Bruno is simply mispronouncing the real words, but the author is clearly asking the reader to consider a double meaning for these words. Discuss the use of wordplay as a literary device. What is the narrator trying to convey to the reader, and how do these puns further communicate the horror of the situation? Well, let's take a look at the first one. Bruno called this place where he lived out with, and we know it was in Poland. Well, if you have paid any attention to history in the past, you'll know that in Poland there was a concentration camp and it was called Auschwitz. Auschwitz. And so that's what he's saying, out with. He's not pronouncing it correctly because he's 9 and he doesn't really understand what it is. But that's why Gretel keeps getting so upset with him, because he's saying out with instead of Auschwitz. So what could out with, why would that be a pun? Out with the Jews, out with these people, get rid of them, let's kill them, let's get them out of society, out with them. So that was the pun that this writer was using with Auschwitz. And then the fury. The fury was referring to Hitler. Hitler was the leader that was in charge of this movement to basically take over the world and to rid the world of the Jews. But because he felt that they were an inferior race, they also were, most of them, very successful businessmen, and he wanted to take over that money as well. But the Fury stood for Hitler, who was known as the Führer, the Führer. And so fury means angry. And so how is that a play on words about Hitler? He was an angry man. He was angry at the Jews. He was angry at these people and wanted them to be gone. And so that's how this author has, through the eyes of this 9-year-old innocent child, calling it out with and the fury. And so I want you to realize, I'm sure you already have, that these are not the real words for these people. And then today you're going to actually start reading the chapter in history on World War II. So I wanted you to finish this book before you actually read World War II, because we're going to start getting now the historical aspects of this war. And I want you to kind of remember that there were people involved, that, you know, when you read this sentence that talks about this many million people were killed at concentration camps, I want you to know those were people's husbands and dads and brothers and uncles and cousins. Those were real people that couldn't speak for, up to protect themselves. So I want you to be aware of that as you read the historical part. We also, next week, I'm going to be reading another story. I really thought we would have gone back to school, so I didn't include it in your packet because I thought surely we'll be back before we get to this point in the year. Unfortunately, y'all, that's just not going to happen. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put on your video next week. I'm going to read the book Number the Stars, and some of you probably have read it in an earlier year, but it goes along with what we're studying in history, and I'm going to read it because it's a fiction book, but it's also based on something that really, really happened. And it has a much cooler ending than the one that we read. The one that we just finished was a devastating ending, but the Holocaust was a devastating time. But there was also something really good that people did during the Holocaust. And I want you to hear the story of Number the Stars, because it does tell the story of what happened in Denmark, what the Danish people did to really help some people. So I'll be reading that tomorrow. And if you have that book or you download it on your phone or your tablet, you can do that as well. But I did not put that in your packet, and I'm sorry that I didn't do that. But I honestly thought I'd be able to have you back in class, and that just isn't going to happen for us this time. So we just have to kind of make the best of what we have. Well, I hope y'all have a great weekend. I hope that you do something fun, and I will be back on Monday. So y'all have a great weekend.